Hi, American Studies. It's Miss Hammond here, trying to talk a little faster in this podcast, make it a little bit easier to listen to. I know before I sounded like a United Airlines stewardess, and try to make it a little bit better. Today we're going to be talking about punctuation, just giving you a quick reminder about some of the easy stuff that you might have learned in middle school, and also just giving you some background about why we use punctuation in this class. So be ready to take some notes, get out your note-taking guide, and hope you enjoy the new podcast. So let's quickly talk about why punctuation is important. The first thing I should tell you is that punctuation is used for a bunch of different reasons, but we're going to focus on 3 different reasons why we use them in our class. The first reason is setting tone. Punctuation is going to help you with that academic tone that we're trying to achieve. Pacing is part of that, so letting people breathe when they're reading your writing. And also it can change your meaning in your writing. The most important part is that ultimately you just don't want to end up on things like fail blog. You don't want to be totally embarrassed of your life work, especially when it involves punctuation, even if you're just making signs. I love looking on fail blog and finding some punctuation issues. Take a look at this sign here. No skateboards, rollerblades, roller skates, shirt, or shoes. So if you don't want to wear any of those things into this store, feel free to leave them behind. The important thing here is that you guys are learning that punctuation sets you up for success. If you ignore it, people are going to make fun of you. You're not going to be respected. I'll show you some examples here in a second. But if you know how to use it, then you can use it for your own good to really empower yourself. So punctuation is kind of your way of taking charge and actually gaining credibility in our society, especially when you grow up. So our first purpose is setting tone. In our last podcast, you guys were learning that we have different levels of formality. On the low level of formality, we have things like texting, writing a note to a friend, taking notes in your notebook. Medium formality, we talked about maybe something that you write in class, a letter, writing a letter maybe to grandma. We don't want to completely ignore punctuation because we don't want her to think that we're ignorant, right? We want to get that respect, but it isn't necessarily imperative that everything is perfect. And on the right, we have high formality, which are things like political events. When dignitaries come, a graduation, any kind of a ceremony, you want to have perfect punctuation. One of my friends had terrible punctuation in her wedding invitations, and people kind of giggled at it. She actually ended up reprinting her wedding invitations because the punctuation was bad. So make sure that you are learning how to put that correct punctuation, especially in high formality situations. The reason why I want you to learn about proper punctuation is that it helps you set that good high formality, which is the type of writing that you're aiming for while you're at school. So again, I come back to the idea of the essay. We're just starting to learn about the essay right now, but that punctuation should be really good. That's a very formal way of expressing your ideas. And punctuation is one way that's going to help you make more money when you grow up. If I drive by and I see a sign on a business without proper punctuation, I'm more likely to keep on driving rather than pull in and give my business there. So when you guys are doctors, lawyers, architects, doing amazing things with your lives, maybe you're a business owner, you have to have good punctuation or people just won't give you the respect that you deserve. Pacing. Punctuation really helps your reader know when to take a break. This is for when you're reading silently, you need a little mental pause in your brain. Our brains can't really handle a huge blob of words, and punctuation kind of helps us break that up. If you're reading out loud, you get a little second to breathe. If you guys have ever read little kids' writing, sometimes they'll just go on and on and on, these huge long sentences. It doesn't make any sense because you don't really have a chance to breathe or insert any kind of a mental break there. I'll give you an example of this. Listen to it, try to read it, try to follow along, but this was actually from a 6th grader's writing who didn't have any punctuation, and I've also seen some of this in 9th grade writing, so go ahead and listen along. George Washington was an amazing American figure because he was a soldier, a politician, and a landowner, which gave him a really good perspective of all the problems in the country. because he could see the issues that most Americans were facing, and that made him a really good leader, which helped him establish a nice country for all of us to live in. Yeah, issues with punctuation here. Also, I included a spelling error here in the word use. Make sure that your spelling is also matching up with your punctuation. If you don't give people anything to really base their reading on, if there isn't a good punctuation system or spelling system, especially at the end of a sentence, it's really hard for readers to follow the track of your thinking in your writing. Also, punctuation helps with the mental timing of your writing, which makes your writing more understandable when people are trying to follow your point. So, for example, when you're writing an essay in class, if your punctuation isn't clear, you're probably not going to score as high grade-wise because we just don't understand what you're saying. It affects the content of your knowledge, and also we can see that you don't have punctuation skills. So make sure that as you're pacing your writing, you're making it easy for Miss Bradley and I to really follow your thoughts. The other thing that punctuation can do is it can change the meaning of your words. This is really important because even if you're a great writer, even if you have amazing ideas and you're very thoughtful in the way that you convey those ideas, punctuation can make you sound very, very silly. It can, like I said, it can really, really diminish the respect that you'll get for your writing. So let me give you a little example here. Can you tell the difference between these two sentences? Let's eat, Grandma. Yum, time to go maybe eat cookies with Grandma. Awesome. Let's eat, Grandma. I'm getting hungry. Let's go eat, Grandma. Pulling a little cannibalism there. Obviously, punctuation is going to make a difference. First one, we have a speaker talking to Grandma. Let's go do something fun. We've got an exclamation point. That comma is going to make the difference there. If we say, let's eat, Grandma, we're not telling the reader who our speaker is here. I'd like to show you some other examples of punctuation fail. This is something that I really enjoy looking at in my free time, but that might be just because I'm a nerdy English teacher. See if you can find the fail in each of these following pictures. Just P.S. Please, guys, do not show up on fail blog. It's just embarrassing as an English teacher. I'm really trying to save you some pain here. Kimmy's Nails and Beauty. Oh, I would love to get my nails done here, except for that enormous comma error right in the middle of the picture where they used a comma instead of an apostrophe. Totally brings it down a notch. Maybe a gang wouldn't have tagged that sign if there wouldn't have been a huge grammar error there. Sorry, Kimmy. Yeah, this is classy here. Somebody's got a really tough looking truck. Unfortunately, this huge apostrophe fail in the middle of it really doesn't give them a lot of credibility. Ha. Have you remembered to pay and display? Clearly we need a question mark at the end here. Make sure that you're using your question marks carefully here, people. And Diana's playpen of little geniuses. Too bad, Diana. That's an apostrophe. Does not signify multiple. Oops. Wouldn't take my little genius there if I had one. And come on, guys, be very, very careful with your tattoos, please. Please make sure your apostrophes are correct. If I don't believe in myself, then who will? That don't need an apostrophe there, friend. So, I understand that before high school, people probably have different backgrounds. I'm hoping, though, that you already have learned about the following punctuation. I want you to have learned about an exclamation point, all right? It looks like this, long line and a dot at the bottom. It gives emphasis. All right, if I want to convey yelling or excitement, I use an exclamation point at the end of my sentence. A question mark. Question mark makes a question. All right, curvy little line and a dot at the bottom. A period. Come on, guys. Please, please insert your periods. This is very important. If you don't have a period in your writing, that makes it very confusing. It marks the end of a sentence. Comma. Commas are a little confusing. I don't think everybody knows all the rules about when to use commas. Typically, they're marking a break in the writing. All right, I'll teach you some rules about when we're technically supposed to use them, but commas are usually used when you would take a little breath. So, take a little bit, pause the video, show me what you know. I want you to correct the sentences in your note-taking guide to show me where you know how to put, just show me that you know how to use exclamation points, question marks, periods, commas, just so that I can be safe knowing that we can move on. If not, if I take a look at this, then we can maybe do a little bit more teaching about these 4 different pieces of punctuation. So let's move on to something a little bit more difficult. In your note-taking guide, I want you to write me a little note. Write me a letter. I want you to tell me if you've learned about the following pieces of punctuation. This is so that I can know if we're safe to move on and learn about more high-level writing skills. All right, have you learned about apostrophes? Have you learned about colons or semicolons? Have you learned about quotation marks? Have you learned about parentheses or brackets? Have you learned about dashes, hyphens, or slashes? Have you learned about spacing? That means the space in front and behind each letter or piece of punctuation.